step into a world where trade was more than just commerce, it was a battleground where kingdoms rose and fell. Welcome to the story of the Mthethwa, Ndwandwe, Tsonga, Amangwane of Dlamini and the Hlubi, the warrior kingdoms that unleashed their power through the trade routes of southern Africa. In this unforgiving landscape, the trade routes were lifelines. They connected the inland kingdoms with the bustling ports of Delagoa Bay and the Cape of Good Hope. But these routes were fraught with danger. They were the very veins through which wealth and power flowed, fueling the ambitions of kings and the might of warriors. At the helm of these warrior kingdoms were two leaders with unmatched strategic brilliance, Ndwandwes of the Mthethwa and Zwide of the Ndungunya. The Tsonga and Swazi tribes, located along the coast and inland, played crucial roles in the trade networks that connected these kingdoms to the outside world. But there was another player in this deadly game, the Hlubi nation. Long before the rise of King Langalibelel, the Hlubi were a force to be reckoned with. Under the leadership of Bungana, they traded cattle and goods with neighboring tribes and even with European settlers at the Cape of Good Hope. Ndwandwes, a leader who saw beyond the horizon, forged alliances with coastal powers like the Maputo kingdom, ensuring a steady supply of firearms. With these new weapons, his warriors were nearly unstoppable. Zwide, a cunning and ruthless leader, fortified his kingdom by controlling the tribute routes, ensuring that wealth flowed directly into his coffers. His vision was clear: dominate or be dominated. The Tsonga people, with their deep knowledge of the coastal regions, acted as intermediaries between inland tribes and coastal traders, while the Swazis of Dlamini, Amangwane maintained control over vital inland trade routes. The trade routes under the control of the Mthethwa and Ndwandwe extended from the interior to the coast, where the Tsonga facilitated the exchange of goods such as ivory, cattle, and gold with Portuguese and other traders. The Swazi, strategically located, ensured safe passage of goods through the rugged interior, linking the coast with inland kingdoms. The exchange of goods with coastal traders brought wealth and resources that bolstered the power and influence of these tribes. In the early days, the Ndwandwes of Langa and the Swazis enjoyed a strong relationship with mutual interests in maintaining control over trade routes and securing their territories. However, as power dynamics shifted, so did alliances. During the reign of Zwide, the once strong relationship between the Ndwandwes and the Swazis began to fracture. The Swazis, under the leadership of Ndungunya, found themselves at odds with Zwide, leading to conflicts that disrupted the balance of power in the region. These conflicts not only weakened the affected tribes but also disrupted the trade routes, leading to a realignment of power and opening the door for new players, like the rising Mthethwa kingdom, to assert their dominance. As the 19th century dawned, the Hlubi nation was led by a new king, Langalibelel. Under his rule, the Hlubi continued to engage in trade, especially with the British. The discovery of diamonds in the Kimberley region only intensified these interactions. But with wealth came tension. The British colonial authorities, threatened by the growing power of African kingdoms like the Hlubi, demanded control. When Langalibule refused to surrender firearms obtained through trade, it sparked the Langalibule Rebellion, a conflict that would see the king exiled and the Hlubi nation diminished. The Mthethwa and Ndwandwe kingdoms controlled key routes that facilitated the trade of ivory, cattle, and other goods, connecting the interior of southern Africa with coastal traders. Cattle were not just wealth, they were power. For the Mthethwa, Ndwandwe, and Hlubi, cattle were the currency of tribute, the foundation of alliances, and the spoils of war. Control over cattle meant control over people, and control over people meant control over the land. But as these kingdoms grew in power, so did their thirst for more, leading to inevitable clashes over resources, territory, and dominance. The battle for supremacy was fierce. The Mthethwa and Ndwandwe clashed in brutal conflicts, each seeking to control the trade routes that could make or break a kingdom. Dingisweo's Mthethwa may have held the upper hand initially, but Zwide's Ndwandwe were relentless, ultimately defeating their rivals. Yet, as one kingdom fell, another rose from its ashes. Shoka, once a general in the Mthethwa army, would go on to build the Zulu kingdom, a new power that would eclipse both the Mthethwa and Ndwandwe. The involvement of the Tsonga in coastal trade brought not only goods but also new cultural practices and ideas, which spread inland through the trade networks. The Swazi, with their strategic control of trade routes, played a crucial role in the dissemination of these cultural influences. But these African kingdoms were not isolated. Across the seas, European traders from the Lagoa Bay and the Cape of Good Hope were the middlemen in this high-stakes game. They exchanged firearms and other goods for the ivory, cattle, and slaves that fueled the African economies. These interactions with Europeans were fraught with peril. The very weapons that African kingdoms used to expand their power were also the tools that would eventually be turned against them as colonial ambitions grew. The story of the Mthethwa, Ndwandwe, Tsonga, Dlamini, and Hlubi is one of warriors and trade, of battles fought over wealth and power, and of kingdoms that rose and fell with the shifting tides of history. In the end, the trade routes that once brought prosperity became the battlegrounds of survival. From economic lifelines to cultural connectors, the trade routes controlled by the Mthethwa, Ndwandwe, Tsonga, Hlubi, and Swazi were more than just paths in the sand, they were the arteries of power and influence in southern Africa, shaping the region's history in profound ways. If you found this exploration of ancient African trade routes fascinating, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into African history.